If you have something that's precious and you keep it locked away in a safe and you take it out once every year and look at it, you don't share it with anybody. You're gonna die one day and you're gonna disappear. Yay! Hey buddy, how are you? Good to see you, bro. Good to see you. Mikey.
God, it's been a while.
It's been a while.
How you doing?
Love you, bro. Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
So either that safe is going to be opened and it's going to be sold to somebody that doesn't care about it, or someone else is going to take it and they're going to keep it. Not often I get to have the guy that's the best guy in the world building three-wheelers come to my barn. Collector starts out, you buy one bike. Then you kind of get that fever, you know, that fever from when you're in the 80s. Then the next thing you got another bike. Next thing you start chasing. Well, we got the King Tut, the sarcophagus.
I've seen pictures.
I know. It's going to be a special day. Come in, guys.
There's competition out there now. There wasn't when I started.
Getting this crated bike was just amazing. It's been in my shop for 6 years, and I wanted to share it with the world.
Thank you. Cheers.
Yep, there she is. It's been a long time coming. It's hard to believe it finally showed up, isn't it?
Hard to believe we finally got our schedules in.
I know, and we got a little background music from the dogs. It's kind of like the King Tut's tomb. When they went in there, they opened it up in Egypt, and I don't know what year that was, but it was pretty special. What do you think, Sean? It's not every day you get to open up something that's 40 years old.
We've seen new bikes, brand new bikes, but
Yep.
nothing not assembled. The whole vintage thing in general is pretty big, like between motocross, you know, and now it's vintage ATVs, mainly three-wheelers, because they were banned in '87. So there's really, you know, that was the end of them.
This is a sarcophagus.
Almost 40 years.
I know, 40 years.
Going back as a kid, I used to search the want ads, like the local want ads, buying old go-karts, you know, fixing them up, painting them, flipping them for money, buying a better one or two or three. That's how I kind of got started.
Something special about them, isn't there?
Yeah, there is. We're a special breed.
Yep. I think there's something unusual about people that collect things. I collect three-wheelers. I grew up in a very rural community. My dad was a logger and my mother was a nurse. I grew up always wanting those things that other kids had that I didn't get to have. That's pretty crazy. I kind of got to a stage in life where I kind of had my business half paid for, and I got into collecting things. So I started looking for three-wheelers. We're almost possessed with looking for these things, and Craigslist was the main source to look for stuff.
So the three-wheeler community has evolved from really a small core group of guys that was like me. You know, they had them as kids and they just never stopped, to a younger crew that really appreciate them. Some not so much more for the historical value of it, just you know, they're kind of cool. So that's evolved into this huge group of collectors and just people buying and selling and building them. And
what's this number on the box?
That could be engine number 3359. Yeah.
Oh, I see it on the engine. Yeah.
Is it on the serial number?
Right there.
Yep.
00335.
Yep, that's it. I wonder if that 1125 is part of the VIN. Yeah.
We'll have to look. I bet a guy
That's really cool.
wrote that number on there.
Well, they assemble these. These are fully assembled, and then they do it now. Even at the end, once they test everything, they have a crew take them apart to crate them. And I bet you that's how they just know, you know, what crate to put it in. Things are getting bigger and bigger and bigger as years go on. I don't know where it's going to go. You know, like no one would know.
I don't remember exactly what year it was, but he showed me this picture just like it was a picture of this bike wrapped up in a crate, and it looked like it was in a basement or a barn or something. And I can remember looking at it, and we had the conversation like, oh, I'm sure it's not good, you know, I'm sure it's all rusted. And Mike said, yeah, it's probably not even, it's probably been put back together, or somebody's abandoned it, or some young guy got it and they wrote it.
Like, when have you seen a NOS 86
Brand new front fender. Still in the plastic.
This is probably mint. It's like sealed. Oh yeah.
Oh wow. A little bit of dirt
No.
on it. Never been on the plastic since the factory.
How cool is that?
That's very cool. Those are hard to come by, aren't they?
Impossible. Yeah, impossible.
Wanna leave it out?
Yeah, we can
Okay.
we don't
put the plastic
just
over
don't
here.
step on it. Most of the stuff can be restored. Engines, chassis stuff, frames. Plastic can be sanded and polished, but if it's broken or damaged, you can't. So plastic's tough, tires are huge. Without having the correct OEM tire, it really ruins the bike. As far as a restoration, it doesn't look right. It doesn't fit the mold of what it should be, so. Yeah.
Watch you don't trip, Sean. You have the hard part.
Center it right on that, yep, right there, down. Okay. Well, what was cool about this is you would assume almost 40 years now of being stored in this barn, the comforter on it. Things would be rusty, corroded, scratched, mice got into it. It wasn't the case. It was dirty, but we started looking around. I'm like, man, this thing, it's pretty well preserved. So as far as like finding a crated three-wheeler and assembling it, this is the only one. 1986 TRI-Z. I had seen pictures of this bike, and I'm guessing over 20 years ago now. I believe it was on Three Wheeler World, which is one of the first forums for three-wheel. I remember seeing this picture of this TRI-Z in a dirty barn with a comforter on it, but completely together in the crate. It was in Germany, and through the channel, he actually got a hold of the owner, and it was still there. That was kind of the fun part of this whole project, is getting it back here. And this bike very well may have come from here. It's in gear, so let's make sure there's no suds. We need to, I think I got everything.
When it finally arrived, I can remember, I'll never forget that day. I drove my dually. I drove it down to Atlanta and picked up the bike and brought it back. The outside of it was all framed in. We took some of it off, looked inside it, and all I could see was that white plastic, that 86 plastic. And I took my finger, I know I shouldn't say this, put a little saliva on it, and I wiggled it, rubbed it, and it was brand new underneath.